All right, real quick notes on biodiversity. Take notes in your notebook on everything that I have highlighted. So here we go. You need to know the definition of biodiversity. And biodiversity is separated into three levels of diversity. First of all, different ecosystems. So ocean, forest, desert, deciduous forest, all those places. When you go into an ecosystem, you can talk about diversity of the species that live there. So all the different plants and animals in a forest or in the ocean. And then if you want to look at one species, there's genetic diversity within a species. So we are all humans. We're all very different from each other. So different places of the world, different things that live within each place, and then within each type of organism, different genetics. So all of that means life diversity. All right, homeostasis is a word you will hear all the time. I want you to think of it as stability in the home. And ecosystems maintain stability in their home, whatever that ecosystem is, by having a high level of biodiversity. The best places for biodiversity on our planet tend to be warm and wet. So tropical rainforest and coral reefs have the highest levels of biodiversity, and because they do, they are super important for the health of our entire planet. So how do we measure biodiversity? We're going to use two words. We can say an ecosystem is rich. Being rich means you have lots of different types of organisms. So if you've diversified your income, if you are an economic person, lots of different plants here, it means it's a rich environment. But we also want to have a lot of each species. So we talk about the richness of the environment and how much there are of each species, or the abundance. So for example, this top ecosystem is very rich, nothing super abundant. This one has high abundance of one plant, but it's not rich. If I had to pick, I would give this one better biodiversity because richness is going to be more important than abundance. So biodiversity is important, but it does tend to go away for a few reasons. The biggest reason is habitat loss. And that is because, like these forest fires in California, that is wiping out all of the environment in that area. So obviously there's no biodiversity left when a habitat is completely destroyed. Habitats can also be chopped into pieces, for example, by roads. So then it's hard for species to use their whole environment because it's chopped up. And another threat is when we degrade a habitat degradation, and that is pollution. So there are two types of pollution I want you to be familiar with. Point pollution comes from one point. It's like a pipe coming out of a factory and dumping smoke into the sky, or dumping dirty water into a lake. You can find that source, and they're really easy to get rid of. Non-point pollution is harder to define, and it's harder to solve. Non-point pollution is, for example, all the people in New Prague who put fertilizer on their lawn. Any fertilizer that doesn't actually soak up into a plant is going to wash away into the groundwater and pollute our water system in New Prague. So it's super hard to tell one person, hey, you need to stop fertilizing because this is your fault, you're putting on too much. So non-point, a wide area, and harder to solve. All right, little quiz here, if you've been paying attention, and I'm going to play a song for you too. What type of habitat loss is, oh no, it's not working. I'll play a song in a minute. Here we go. What type of habitat loss is this? It is habitat loss, sorry. This one is fragmentation, and this is degradation. So, destroyed it, chopped it up, made it dirty. Here you go. Here we go. Okay, I will never do that again. All right, why else do we lose biodiversity? Invasive species come in, and you should have notes on what those are, but they don't have a predator, so they take all the food, they mess up the food web, and destroy the ecosystem. I want you to know the difference between invasive and exotic, because they are exactly the same thing. Exotic species also are not supposed to be here, but they are harmless. So sometimes a species comes in and it kind of fits into the ecosystem and doesn't cause harm. If a species comes in and ruins ecosystem, then we call it invasive. And we are going to talk more about that in class. So how do we save biodiversity? Our first law that was put into order was the Endangered Species Act in 1973, and it protected endangered species and organisms that were close to being endangered. We can also do things to preserve the habitat. So there are programs set up where they'll ask you to plant a natural prairie. So trying to save the habitats that are supposed to be there. Also things like habitat corridors, which is this little bridge. This is a bridge for animals. So this is little Billy Goat's gruff are allowed to walk through here, and here's the troll underneath the bridge. But this habitat corridor allows the Billy Goats over here to get to their friends over here, and we are the trolls underneath that they're trying to get away from. So hallways for organisms is a habitat corridor. Also, we can preserve a species by doing what we can in isolation, for example, a zoo, save that species, help it reproduce, and then reintroduce it back into the environment. So why do we care? Maybe you don't care about the environment, maybe you don't think this is a big deal, but as we lose diversity, more and more organisms become extinct, and we are currently in a mass extinction process. So there have been 5 other mass extinctions that we have measured on our planet, and we are in the 6th extinction. Species are dying off at a rate 1,000 to 10,000, so pretty big range because we don't know, but they are dying off faster than any normal rate of extinction. So this is a big deal because of what we know about a food web. Okay, also why else should we care about biodiversity? If we have a healthy environment, we get to live, which is ultimately the goal. Also, if you only care about money, healthy ecosystems help us be wealthier. Ecosystems save us money because they do free services and give us something to invest in. So an ecosystem service is putting a dollar value on biodiversity. So what do ecosystems do? They naturally clean our water. Well water is very, very clean. You can pump it out from about 150 feet down and drink it because the soil that water filters through cleans out all the bacteria, all the sediments, and you have clean water. Obviously, an ecosystem gives us food, resources to build houses, plants soak up carbon. Every bit of medicine on our planet started as a plant, animal, or bacteria that we are using, or fungus. Healthy soil lets us grow healthy food so we can be healthy. And then most cultures or religions also rely on nature as part of their culture and spiritual practices, and obviously vacation spots. If we keep wrecking our coastlines with whatever we're doing, lots of stuff, there's nowhere to vacation to. Here's a picture really quickly of how humans and maybe nature itself has destroyed the Amazon rainforest. So in 1950 it looked like that. A mere 70 years later, this green is all of the Amazon rainforest that is left. So part of that is because the people that live here are farming this so that they can survive and make some money. And you can't deny people survival, but there are other things going on. There's other ways we could help people survive without ruining our ecosystem. Another little cartoon picture. So rainforests are super important for our planet's health. Also coral reefs. The food chain in the ocean starts in a coral reef, but because of acid rain, which is all the carbon in our atmosphere turns into acid rain, and pollution, so all the things we're dumping into water, coral reefs are dying off quickly. If they die off, the entire ocean ecosystem will be destroyed. So we need to be careful with little things that we're doing, all these non-point pollutions that humans do, can we figure them out and save our environment? That is it. And we are done with the first unit. So you should know all about scientific method, ecosystems and parts of the ecosystem, populations and what affects them, and now biodiversity, including invasive species.